Can you imagine a world where you felt to your core loved unconditionally? Could you imagine a world in which you weren't running around trying to check off the boxes of others of what is worthy or lovable or whole, but that you felt that way inside? Is it possible for our communities to really love our children unconditionally? This is something that I've been struggling with my whole life. A world of duality, a world where I felt I didn't belong, a world in which I wondered if I was really worthy. My name is Elham. Elham. It's an Arabic name that means prophecy. My name is also Yocheved, a biblical name, Moses' mother, and my paternal grandmother. I grew up my whole life straddling these identities, Elham, Yocheved, trying to check off this box or that box and not feeling whole. I remember one of the first times I felt a tingling of shame around this duality. I was 8 years old, and my bedroom was in the attic of the house. It wasn't scary. And I was sitting on my bed doing homework. It was before Passover, and I was studying the 4 questions. My father came home from work. Elham. He wanted to know if I needed help with homework. He walked up the stairs of the attic and found me on my bed. Yocheved was studying the 4 questions in Yiddish. Tatich v'vade fregen, not the language of Elham. Can I help you with your homework? My father asked. And I felt that tingling of shame, because I knew that as much as he wanted to help me, and as wise and kind that my father is, he could not help me with the language of Yocheved. He could not help me with the Manishtan in Yiddish. It's okay, Daddy, I got it. That duality of identity, the duality of who decides if I'm worthy and where I belong. I went to high school, to boarding school, and I was a good girl. Nobody knew who Elham was. It was Yocheved in all of her glory. I learned from a young age that I have a mission in this world, that God loves me, that every person is unique. And I held that mission so hard and strong. I felt it to my core. My soul was ablaze. I was a good girl. And one day my teacher called me into her office. And I was scared because I did not want to get into any trouble. And she called me in and she's like, Yocheved, there's something wrong with your uniform. There's something wrong with your uniform. And I looked down and my elbows were covered, my collarbone was covered, my knees were covered. I had checked off all the boxes of what it meant to be a good girl. What was wrong with my uniform? What's wrong with my uniform? It's modest. Something's wrong with it. Maybe it's just the way you're wearing it. Just the way you're wearing it. Only years later did I realize what was wrong with my uniform. The transition between the body of a 15-year-old girl and a 16-year-old girl was wrong. Shame. I took a dunk that day in the bath of shame. The words adults say matter for kids. They do. Duality. Elham got into college, which made my parents very happy, but Yocheved's principals were very disappointed, and I left and went to New York for university. And one of the nights that I was out with my friends, we met this big group of kids. And on the outside, they looked like any other group you would imagine walking the streets of New York City. Jeans, t-shirts, cool haircuts. They seemed really happy and just kind of free, teenagers. But as I heard them talking, and I heard their names, Mendel, Yossi, I knew that they were from the same community as me. And I got to know these kids. Some of the most smart, vivacious, creative, energetic kids who, like me, also learned that I have a unique mission in this world. And they also learned that they were a child of God and they were lovable, but they learned other things too. See, they were dragging along a list of unchecked boxes. So long. Unchecked boxes. They were not good students. They were not devout enough. They were not from the same families as other people. The only boxes that they checked were not a good student, behavioral challenges, couldn't sit still, asked too many questions about God, learning challenged, victims of child sexual abuse, of bullying. Those were the only boxes they had checked. And I remember feeling, how is it that we were raised in the same community? We were raised with the same mission and the same mandate, that we were lovable and that we were enough, but yet something was broken. There were demons these kids were fighting. Something was unjust in our communities and in our schools. It was so much to bear. I graduated college. I followed a career in psychology, in the arts, and in filmmaking. And most of my career was focused on this question: how do we develop identity? How do we find belonging? Where do we find love? How do we check the box? And I got married, and my first child was a boy. And I remember one day walking with him. He was 3 years old, and we were walking together, and I was holding his hand. And he looked up at me with the most amazing, wide, bright-eyed, innocent smile. And I looked down at him in that moment, and I remember it, and I said to myself, you are whole. You don't feel fragmentation. You're not looking to check the box. I need to protect you from a world that will force you to do that. And I said to myself in that moment, I will create that reality for my child and for children like him, for all children. A world in which we're not checking off the boxes and basing our identity on others. And so I founded a school called Lamplighters. And we started off with 12 kids. And the mission of the school is to love each child unconditionally for who they are as an individual, and to believe in them. Love is not enough. I know you can reach for the stars. I know that nothing is out of your reach as long as you bring your whole self there. And I am privileged to be in this community of Lamplighters that now has over 150 students of loved, dynamic, healthy, engaged children. The other day, my son said to me, Mommy, you want to hang out? He's a teenager now, so that doesn't happen very often. So I was like, okay, yes. Should we get burgers? What do you want to do? He's like, I want to go driving. So his dad takes him driving sometimes at this parking lot, about 20 minutes away from our house. I've never done that before, but I figured it's an opportunity. So I said, okay, I'll take you driving. So we go to this parking lot, and I'm sitting in the front seat, he's sitting in the passenger seat, and he looks at me and he says, Mommy, do you trust me? Trust me? And I had to stop for a moment because I said to myself, all this long I've been trying to protect you. Can I really trust you? And I took a deep breath and I looked him in the eye. I said, yeah, I trust you. And I got out of the driver's seat. I let him get in. And he drove that car, and he was so happy. See, I believe in a world in which we trust one another deeply. We trust the good in each one of us. We trust children. They're not deluded by fragmentation. Each one of us are like a car driving in this world of life, so focused on the outside, on the body of the car, but the engines inside are depleted, broken. What if we cared more about the inside than the outside and stopped trying to check the box around the outside? I'm part of a movement. I'm part of a school. I'm part of a community of Lamplighters where I'm surrounded by children who feel like they're at home. Little Gedalia running around in his socks with a camera around his neck because he somehow discovered a love of photography and he just feels so at home taking pictures. Or the high school kids who hang out after hours until the wee light of the morning, sitting with their teacher, telling them about their personal lives, asking tough questions about God. And they're not wearing a mask. They're not trying to check off somebody else's box. And kids who are only motivated by their own scale of greatness, not their friends, running to the principal to get a little button that says that they graduate to the next level. I believe in a movement of people that are whole and authentic and who are enough, and I believe that we have the power to give that gift to one another. To stop running around trying to check the boxes on the outside and to look at that box within, the only box that really matters. The one that's connected to the one above, that's the one that we gotta check. My name, Yocheved, there's a mystical explanation of the name. Yocheved, the biblical one, the mother of Moses, was born by the wall between Egypt and the Promised Land. She represents being able to straddle opposites, the paradox. It's no accident that that's my name. I see the fusion of the paradox, where others see spirit and matter, right and wrong, smart and dumb, innovation and tradition. I see a melding of the two. I see the possibility for the world to live as one, where it essentially is. And I believe that each one of us are charged with that mission. And I see a world in which schools like Lamplighters can completely transform the world to give children, from when they're young, that opportunity to feel whole and loved and enough. So I invite you to join me. Thank you.